Well, it wasn't always pretty, but if you took the over on victories for WVU this season, you won. So did WVU. And I think just about every question I had for this game was answered yes. Some of them, heck yes. Could the offense play for 4 quarters? Heck yeah. It was a solid, strong, not perfect, offensive performance. More about that later. Could running backs build? Yes. Could the defense play 4 quarters? Yes. Could the defense find a way to make pressure work? Yes, when they had to. Would the defensive line find that extra gear? Sort of. Now, wasn't entirely happy with how the defensive line handled the run, but the thing was the team did what they had to and what they could under the circumstances. What you saw was a well-played, well-coached game. Now, offense. Green, no major mistakes. He had a couple of bad reads. He did, he wasn't perfect. Had a few throws that he probably should have hit. It was windy. Not a perfect game, but in some respects a better game because he did not make a game-changing mistake. He made only the game-changing positive plays, including lots of touchdown runs. The offensive line, again, not perfect. Nestor injured, and I'm afraid we will lose him for a while. Of course, we won't know until next week sometime. But even with Malone in at right tackle, they did open the holes when they needed to. It was a solid performance. And people are, of course, saying UCF has a terrible run defense, which has been true most of the season, but they did a good job against Oklahoma last week. So, okay, Oklahoma got beat by Kansas today, so they're not perfect. But UCF played them to the end. They're a highly ranked team. So, UCF is not a bad team. They're a team with issues, but we played well and beat a good team. Johnson started at running back, ended up being the guy we saw the least of, and I'm not sure how much of that was because of him and how much was because Donaldson was running a lot more like Donaldson. And that's not just the UCF defense. Whether the defense is good or bad does not determine how hard a back runs. Donaldson was running hard. He got extra yards. And there were a number of times the hole opened clearly for him. He hit it quickly and straight. And Jaheim White, we were told up front that he was going to play more because he practiced better. One of the things Coach Brown talked about in his press conference was that White is learning to do a better job of taking care of his body so he can practice hard through the week and still be able to handle the game. So that is how you develop players. And there's also been talk, especially this week, that, well, maybe White is one of those guys who doesn't do well in practice, but really just stars in the game. But that's silly to bring up, because White has already shown before this game that he's not that kind of player. He's had chances. He didn't, prove it. He's a guy who has tons of talent, tons of speed, and when he practices well, he can play well. And again, he's young. What he's doing is excellent for a freshman. But he had to start eliminating some errors and learning how to practice. Again, it's one of those things that Brown says over and over again. You win Saturday on Tuesday and Wednesday. He said it again this week. Well, White is learning that. It's showing. 9 carries, 85 yards. Some good decisions on the cuts. So he's coming along. He's being brought along slowly and well. Saw a lot more of Rodney Gallagher today, including a couple of receptions. Again, he's being brought along slowly and well. He's good. He's going to be extremely good. And he will be able to do more and more as the season progresses. Of course, how much of the season is left is not that much. But the offense is looking very good. And as in previous weeks, we saw some new plays, new formations, variations. The little pitch to White is a neat play. It also gives Green the option to fake the pitch and run, which worked. So things are looking very good on the offensive side of the ball. We've got guys who are peaking at the right time. The defense, we are short-handed. That's a simple fact. Now it's a question of what can we do with it. Early in the game, pressure was not getting to Plumlee. It wasn't missing by much, but it was missing by enough to give Plumlee opportunities, time to find the void left by the pressure. The defense was giving up solid plays and chunk plays, every now and then getting a stop, but giving up too much and still trying to keep limits on it. They got better. It was more like what we have seen in the past when they were better in the second half than in the first half. Better in the fourth quarter than in the third. Now, that still has its limits. How they played in the third and fourth quarter was still not as good as they played earlier because they don't have the players. I did note that Spells and Beiser were in late, so I think Brown was bringing in some fresh guys, particularly when they were in the prevent defense, and seemed to work. Yeah, they were giving up yards, but they were giving up grudgingly, and they forced UCF to take, I think it was well over 3 minutes to score that last touchdown, and that was a big difference. They also got a really good, stop on downs along the way. Now, some of that was also because as the pressure got better and Plumlee made some critical mistakes, and after Koba whacked him into fumbling, Plumlee lost his edge. The pressure had its effect in multiple ways. Now, still had to be very picky about when and how to bring pressure. We do not have the players to do it as often as we were. But, Leslie is adjusting. He's working with what is there, getting some of the backups more reps, of course, because there aren't as many guys in practice. So more reps will help those guys, and they should be able to play more and better in these last several games. The defense wasn't pretty. It kept me on edge because I was worried that at any moment UCF was going to break through. But they kept finding a way to win. Now, the ball bounced our way a lot today, which is the opposite of what has been happening. And of course, so you take it. You don't say, hey, we'd have lost if the ball hadn't bounced our way. You take it because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Today was our day for getting the breaks. Another question was whether or not the team would get back to playing disciplined and smart. Yes. I think whole first half without a penalty. 4 for the day. A couple of those were very late in the game. They were kind of mental mistakes, but they weren't killers. And still, 4 on the day, disciplined football. Guys were better at assignment football in all 3 phases. Of course, we didn't see special teams a lot, but we also didn't see any mistakes when we saw them. So, no big mistakes by anybody. And that that makes a difference. So we put together what we had to. Defense was better. It's still going to be scary, but dang, I love the dedication. Offense just keeps getting better. And we are making increasing use of the young stars in the rising stars. That's good to see. Still have to be patient with them. They are not just going to become experienced players overnight. But you gotta like it. So overall, a little scary, but also a beautiful win. Sets us up for BYU. We have to keep playing strong, playing smart, and maybe listen to the coaches when they tell you to practice hard and smart. Oh, I wanted to note with the quirky plays, I do suspect those are Chad Scott designs. The players talked about Scott working on plays early in the season. And I think we are seeing those bit by bit. not trying to throw them all out in one game. He is probably still working on refining and creating more of them. But this is more of the offense that Coach Brown has been trying to get in place. It's not that he has changed his thinking. He is working with the talent, specific abilities, and limitations that he has, which is what he has always done. Right now, there are more strengths to work with, and he and Scott are finding ways to work with it. Unfortunately, on defense, we have fewer strengths to work with, but the coaches are finding ways to work with what we do have. Okay. I'm happy. A lot of the fans out there are happy. Some are saying, oh gosh, we only beat a bad team, so don't get excited. Well, I feel like getting excited. I may not look excited, but I'm excited. So I'm going to enjoy the game, the win, and I'll talk to you later, and we'll start looking towards BYU. So long.